Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do you like this answer? Mm-hmm. Do you like it? Yes, for sure. And how about antifragility?
Okay, so to continue, there are several ways by which the system reacts to random events and variability. Some get weaker. Some don't care, as like people from Brooklyn, they don't care, right? Nothing can happen to them, like the Brooklyn Bridge, it's robust. And then there are a class of things that benefit from randomness. They bounce back after adversity at a higher level than before. So these phenomena were mentioned here and there in the literature in terms of hormesis, like you give a little bit of the poison, the person gets stronger. But it was not systemized. So with antifragile, start looking at the properties of systems that not only need variability and randomness and shocks, but they get weaker in the absence of these things and characterizing these systems. For example, let's take business life. What is the predictor? The best predictor of the most potent predictor of a bankruptcy of a company? Try to guess. A steady earning, steady cash flow. Unless you have variability of cash flow, you don't learn and you're not adapted to the market. See? So the best predictor of death is a steady heartbeat. When I wrote Antifragile about 14 years ago, even cardiologists weren't aware of the fact that you need irregular heartbeat up to point to do well in life. And actually today, the Apple Watch gives you heart rate variability as a good thing. It means how adaptive you are to variation. I have an example in Antifragile of two brothers, two Cypriot brothers in London. One of them is a cab driver, and now he would drive Uber, and the other one is employed by a firm with a steady earning. And I kept asking people, tell them, listen, they make on average the same amount of money. Who has more stable income? And everybody would tell me the one on a salary. No, because if the one on a salary loses his job, say at age 54 and a half, the odds of being hit by a truck, a pink truck, are higher than getting another one. Whereas the taxi driver is completely adapted because he has variable income, on average makes the same, but income is variable. If your income drops, you try to find new routes, new places, different airport, train stations. You try to find ways to be completely adaptive. And it's the same thing that happened to companies. You start looking at the cash flow. If it's steady, it means they have a friend in government, or they have a big corporate, big client. And if that person, catches, a deadly disease or decides, to go on vacation or decide to retire or something, they lost that business. They're not adapted to things. So, in a way, volatility is information for these systems. Likewise, your own body, needs some kind of shocks. There's such a thing as a health club. Today I was in a hotel and I checked, they had a health club. Unfortunately, didn't have the chance to use it, but they have a health club. What do you do at a health club? You subject your body to stressors because it gets weaker in the absence of these stressors. So we know that it works for your own body, but we don't generalize to other systems. And effectively, all complex systems have the same properties. You have to figure out how much variability the system needs. Not too much, but not too little. Too much and it breaks. Too little, and of course, it breaks as well. Ends up degenerating and becoming, having some kind of atrophy.
Okay.
So,
let's go to the next.
but you're Russian, no? Russians understand antifragility because Russians understand how to bounce back from adversity. that have been proven track record. That every shock you want to be better off than the previous one.
Okay,
Yeah. Go ahead.
better question. Ladies and gentlemen, you claim that it's not possible to predict the future, yet you seem extremely positive about the decline of the West and the dominance of the Silk Road and Greece. Can you explain it, please?
Okay, yeah, so let me tell you, so my problem, and I explain it through my randomness, is a lot of people see noise and they mistake noise for signal. Okay? But there's an opposite problem of missing a signal. Okay? You know, forgetting the noise, there is a signal. Now, what is a signal? Please stop taking my picture. I hate it. I can't concentrate. Please, I mean, not in front of me. Right? Anyway. So, you see, I have my vulnerabilities. So, anyway. So let me tell you what was happening. 2009, 2008, 2009, when we had a financial crisis in Europe, the US had 19% of the world GDP, and what is now currently the European Union had 20% of the world GDP, PPP. China had 6% of the world GDP. Okay. Turkey had about 1% of the world GDP. What happened in 15 years? China has more than 20% if you take prices, adjust prices, appropriately. More than 20% of world GDP. The US went from 19% to 15%, and Europe from 20% to 14%. Now, there's something called compound interest, nobody understands. If you grow slightly, I don't understand it intuitively, you have to look at it, analytically. If you grow at 1% a year better than others, over time, it will become explosive. So, the West is doing well. I mean, look, they have I'm a cyclist, they have great cycling path, they have great food, they have great museums. But the problem is that they've reached a level, it's an S-curve, they reached a level where they don't have the incentive to grow much more. China, India now is 6 to 7% of world GDP. The Silk Road, countries on the Silk Road, and this is a country on the Silk Road, you see how fast they're growing, simply because they're lower on the S-curve. They have more room to go up. China has more room to modernize, more roads to build, whereas we have enough roads in France. If you build more roads, you destroy the scenery. Okay, so, why is this consequential? Because we're speaking English, the language that became international only recently. Everybody's programmed to think that the West has dominated culture and economic life for a long time. Not true. The center of the world was closer to the east during Roman time, and this is why the Romans had to move their capital to Byzantium. Why? That's where the money is. Just like you moved to Dubai, probably a Russian moving to Dubai. Why? That's where the money is, right? So, move to Byzantium on the Silk Road. And let me continue. Up till the discovery of America, the center of gravity of the world was out east. Okay? The east started to fall apart when what's now the UK, Britain, bullied China in 1830, the Boxer War. You started with China had 8 times the GDP of Britain. And by the time it ended, it was the other way around. So you realize that up till 1800, for example, the standard of living of Aleppo was higher than that of London. I'm talking about 225 years ago. So the growth of the West is recent. First industrial revolution in the 1760s, second industrial revolution. So we have 200 years of growth that's saturated. Now everybody figured out the technique, just like the Arabs introduced techniques to Europe. They became more developed in Europe than in the Arab world. all right? And the things can go the other way around. Things that have been invented in Europe now can move east, or they're going to be used maybe to a more sophisticated purpose. But people don't see that because everybody's programmed in that Eurocentric framework to forget. And now you just remember, people start remembering now Asian roots. Like Russia wanted to be European from Peter the Great on, and now decided, oh, we're also in Asia, by the way. Great news. Even Hungary wants to be in Asia. You know, they applied to be, they're now observer in the Association of Turkic States, and they suddenly are discovering that, hey, you know what, we're Asian, by the way. We're Ozgur Turks, right? Hungary. So I'm saying that the prestige of Europe has been declining, and you can have a rapid substitution to prestige of other places in the world. We so happen to be in Dubai, which is at a cusp. You see, the Middle East is in between Asia and, of course, the West. So you can go either way. And that's what's interesting about the Near East. I mean, Turkey now is, in PPP, much more powerful than it was before. And people keep complaining about a crisis in Turkey. You know, noise. Look at the signals. So the world is moving east, which is natural. What we had in the 1700s was the bulk of the world GDP was India and China. And you're on the way to India and China, you do very well. So